Welcome back to a new episode of the No Rep Podcast. I'm with the usual daubers.
Hello.
Evan.
What's happening?
And Nathaniel, but we have a special guest today. He's many things, I don't quite know how to introduce him. International man of mystery. DJ Big Sexy, I've heard people call you.
Oh God, haunts me.
Ex-professional rugby player, entrepreneur, busy man, Adam Ashe.
Thanks for having me.
What's happening? Practice that intro, I'm not gonna lie. Practice that.
All the way down in the
Sitting in
road.
the mirror for the last 3 weeks.
Don't fuck it up.
I nailed it. How are you, mate?
I'm good. I'm glad to be here with you lads, and I'll tell you what, I love that fucking word dauber.
It's a good one.
It's not said enough, to be quite honest.
Good start to the podcast.
Aye, there's a
but
few. I think there's
You
a few.
talking about it before the podcast, that what it is?
Talking about
Me?
aye.
Yeah.
There's a few words like that. I think like Scottish words like dauber, jobby, shit like that. Like
There's not enough jobby in the world.
jobby.
Is in use of.
Okay.
Those are the words that I've just had to cut out my vocabulary since being in America.
I know.
Like, coming back, starting to get used to them again. Jobby, dauber, stuff like that.
Fuck it, we'll get to that then. Right. How's it?
I've got questions about that.
You've just fucked up my series of questions. I was going to go through your whole life and how you got to America, but I talk about America a wee bit because obviously you were there at the kind of tail end of your rugby career. How was that?
Yeah, it was good. Obviously very different to here, but having played at Glasgow Warriors for like 10 years and then gone out there, it was a nice change. Couple of years in LA, that was amazing. Obviously, sun every day, living by the beach, cool place to live. A lot going on, and then just the last year was Chicago, but I was more like in a coaching role there. So it was
defence
different.
coach or something, or forwards
I was
coach.
forwards coach there. So that was good. That was a good challenge. Like totally different. Obviously, finishing up being professional as a player, but going into a role as a coach that quickly was quite a step up, if you could say that, or a challenge. But no, it was good. Like we can really dive into the ins and outs of the US journey. But a general overview it was a good time. I mean, I probably wouldn't want to live there long term, but it was a good few years to say the least.
Aye. I've been on holiday in America, and I've got just to LA. I've got relatives that live in like Santa Barbara and Santa Monica and stuff like that. It's a place, even though I went there, like LA in and itself is like a bit of a mad place. Yeah. Like even just some like the whole kind of wealth gap that you see even over there. It's like you've either got money.
Like fucking Skid Row and shit.
Yeah.
Is that?
I never went there. My missus went there. She seen somebody shooting up and like passing out. Like she said, it was mental. But it is like that. The city is like obviously spread out. Like you've got the downtown area, which I think like most tourists, if they go there, will stay there. And it's like that's not the place you stay.
Nah.
You do not go there if you go to LA. Maybe you go in for an afternoon and go to a nice restaurant or whatever. But you've got like Venice Beach, which is probably the hub. Like and it is rough. It's rough down there as well. Like you've got a lot of homeless people there. I mean, I was living there, say 3 years ago now. I actually went back about 6 months ago, and I thought it had got a lot better. Like, you know, there's just less people in the streets, like less tents about. But you really notice it if you go down there in the morning, first thing, when the sort of like boardwalk's not busy, it's like zombies, man. Like honestly, people just kicking about, like beards just like they've not washed in months. Like
it's just there's a lot of crazy. That's what it is. There's just a lot of crazy out there.
It's a different type of fucking junkie you get out there, but then here they're all mellow, man.
Different animal.
Over there.
How close is the divide? So like, is it like you've got somebody eating caviar in a restaurant while you've got somebody outside fucking getting full of smack, or is it like there's a bit of mileage between like, the madness?
No, you see that. Like it depends where you go. Like the area that I lived in was like more of like a family area. It was called Hermosa Beach, which was like next to Manhattan Beach, which is maybe an area that you've heard of before, but it's all just families, you know, like man, the average house price there is probably like 3 or 4 million. Like it's like mental.
Ridiculous.
Right on the beach, kind of like a little surf town, but that's 5 miles south of Venice Beach.
No.
Oh, is
so
it?
it's a wee bit further down, which was nice. Like they don't allow homeless people to be walking around there. Like the local council will move them out or whatever. But you see it. Like I mean,
police brutality.
like, even in like Venice Beach, you've got Like if you go one street back from the boardwalk, you've got houses that are like 10 million. And then you've got these homeless people walking around, jumping through guards. One of the boys woke up. He was living in Venice Beach. He woke up to come to training one morning, went out to get in his car, and there was a homeless boy sleeping in the back seat.
Jesus.
What?
Sorry, bro.
Aye, and he just
They just left the motor unlocked or something?
I left it unlocked, and the boy jumped in for a sleep.
Wow, man.
And he just had to say to him, look, can you get out? And the boy got out and just walked off.
It's just like usual behaviour.
That's it, aye.
I go with that, man. He's been sitting farting all night. He's opened his door.
He said it was fucking stinking.
What's that movie? Is the other guys when Will Ferrell's got that wee fucking red car and all the homeless people find it, they all start banging in it and all that.
So there's raccoons and all that.
That type of
And he watched the video or the pictures back. They get the pictures back or something like that. It's brilliant.
How did you find the rugby out there? So see like the ML, obviously there's some big names and all that playing, but how did you actually find that compared to like over here and whatever?
Yeah, I mean it was
That was
like
my question.
it was
sorry, bro.
it's actually quite physical. It's a physical league. Like you've got a lot of really good athletes, obviously people that have played other sports like football in particular, but there's people that can hit hard and that are powerful when you tackle them. I reckon I actually tackled like the strongest ball carrier I've ever had to tackle.
Really out there?
in America really?
He was an ex-football player. He actually played at one of the top colleges, and then I think he had the opportunity to go into the NFL, and he was like, nah man, like he was from like Hawaii. He was one of these like kind of like rad like soft a bit spiritual.
Spring break.
Like, no, I've got to chase my dream. I want to be a rugby player. So he went and played rugby. But I remember playing against this guy. I played at San Diego and like tackling him, man. He was like a train. Like he was only about 95 kilos. But he was just the power that he packed, like just unbelievable. So physical, there's just not the same sort of like tactical understanding, the strategy, the IQ's not there. And it comes back to it's like, well, you know, it's coaching, it's just the standard of player. It's when you've got like obviously in our team in LA we had like some world class players, but then you have guys that have barely played professional rugby in the USA, so they're maybe over here there maybe be a maybe Prem 2, Prem 3 standard player. So you've got to try and...
That's crazy.
Right.
It is. There's a big gap between the sort of levels, but it's still a good level. Like it's a fun competition to play in because you're always travelling. You're seeing all the major cities in the US every second week.
That's cool, man.
You know, like I don't think playing in LA anyway, didn't play one game in rain. Like I think we had 2 training sessions in 2 years in rain. So
that would be nice.
Yeah.
It was totally different to here. So it was class. But yeah, I mean, it probably was at the right time for me in my career. Like speaking to you like a couple of weeks ago, I was battered, man. My body was done in, and you know, I don't know how much longer I could have lasted here playing at the level that I was playing at. So it was probably the right thing to take a step down and go and change sort of lifestyle and have some fun.
Enjoy life a bit.
I want to kind of go in on that and kind of go. Not because you've done this in podcast before and stuff like that, and there's kind of a few different things I want to dive into, but how you kind of gone about from that kind of Glasgow coming into the Scotland setup and stuff like that, and then how about that time dealing with those injuries and how kind of pure sport and stuff like that was formed. I kind of want to go into that a wee bit because I found when we were talking last week or 2 weeks ago, I didn't actually know the reason behind why you formed Pure Sport. And for those that don't know or listen, Pure Sport's a CBD brand, would you say?
Yeah, it's like a wellness brand, wellness supplements.
Aye, and how that was formed, but the reason behind it, rather than just you being like, oh, I think we could sell this, but there was an application behind it, sort of thing.
Yeah, there was. It was a bit of a tricky time. There's a lot of things that sort of come into it, but like the kind of basis of that story and how it all came about was that like essentially in 2017, CBD had been sort of ticked off the banned substance list, so it wasn't a banned substance anymore. Obviously we know it comes from the cannabis plant and there's all those sort of like relations to it, but the governing bodies removed it. Obviously a lot of people were talking about that at the time, or not a lot of people, but people that I happened to be listening to at that point through podcasts and stuff like that. And me being me, maybe a little bit of a risk taker, and you know, always looking for an opportunity to do different stuff. I was like, I'm going to try it. So, you know, started using it. But all the sort of medics and professionals within the rugby world were sort of saying, like, don't use this stuff because it's not being tested by the likes of Informed Sport and companies like that who can check for, if there's like steroids being laced through it or something like that. Some you wouldn't
Tainted.
expect,
Oh no,
tainted.
shit. I'm really jacked.
CBD's get train in it.
But I guess I was like, I'm going to try this. And again, it probably comes back to the fact that I'd always struggled a little bit with my body, just like I'd always sort of been battered up a bit more than most of my mates that were around me playing. So I started using it, and I was like, man, this stuff's like really good. I was sleeping better, felt like less anxious, like just like recovered better. And then I started speaking to my mate Grayson about it, and I'm like, oh, right, well, we should do something here, man. I think there's an opportunity. So we literally got a bit of money together. We got the products made, just like a third-party manufacturer, branded it all up as Pure Sports CBD, and that was a start. From there onwards, like that's when things started to get a little bit harder because, like, after that sort of first year of starting the company, what we noticed, it was like a lot of the rugby boys that we were playing with wanted to use the products. They were like, oh, this is really helping us. And they were posting it on their Instagram. But we had a little bit of kickback from Scottish Rugby at that point because obviously they thought there was a risk in players using the products because they weren't tested by Informed Sport. But Informed Sport weren't testing CBD products at that point. They actually couldn't do it. They didn't have the means to do it. If they did, we would have got it done. So we were testing to the highest degree possible, but it wasn't quite good enough for the top organisations to be happy with. So all the players and people around are posting about it and loving it. We're growing quickly. Sales are starting to sort of come in quite fast. And then after about a year, Grayson left. He went down to London, so he left Scottish Rugby. I still had, I think, 3 years of my contract at Glasgow. And what had sort of happened was that the union had put a sort of just a blanket ban on players talking about it, advertising it, being involved in it. So I couldn't really do anything that was forward facing. So I sort of took a step. I was still working for the company. Like, I'd say that now. I wouldn't say it back then, but I was still working in the background, just not talking about it publicly. But he moved down to London, and obviously he could sort of push on with it. And what happened after maybe a year of him being in London is he retired from the game. So he really just sort of pushed on with it. And then about a year after that, I left to go out to the US. So I was really involved in that for the first 3 years as a sort of founder, really initially just getting it off the ground and building it. But I guess where the brand's gone from when I went to America to now, it's grown arms and legs. Like it's just it's huge now. You see it on Instagram, people talking about it.
Man.
It's the old merch.
The merch.
Best socks,
I remember you
best socks in the game.
Aye. Oh, you got the socks for your run, didn't you? You were because you were very much. I don't know when this maybe 2019, but you were like boots on the ground, like shilling it, like because do you remember that? It was some expo at the Hydro.
I remember that.
And you were there, like just at the stall, being like, "Here, who wants this?" And I think it was like there was gummies and there was drops and stuff like that.
Into people's mouths.
And then I think that's the first time I maybe met you was back then, like 2019 or whatever. And we were chatting away about it, and I was like, "This is pretty sick." And then fucking fast forward a few years, and then it's just like boom. And it's cool to see that from like the inception of it, the start of it, to then what it sort of became.
It's like I honestly think we would have had the worst stall at that expo. But like it was like 2 weeks before. I can't even remember what it was. It was a health and fitness expo or something like that.
Because there was all sorts of shit going on. There was a strongman competition, a CrossFit competition.
SFN.
I think it might have been. It might have been
Scottish fitness fucking.
It might have been.
I was like saying Grayson, I was like, oh, this thing's coming up in Glasgow. I think he was in London at that point. I was trying to convince him, let's spend like 800 quid, get a stall, and we'll go down. I think we ended up selling like 5 bottles or something. It was a complete like fail. But you know what? Like I met you and we're doing this podcast today. So
here we go. Full circle, man. Full circle. Really? 800 quid to do it. You sold 5 things.
Like that, aye. But you know what?
I didn't even buy anything either. So
it's funny, these things. Like it's hard to like justify like if you're getting something back from the money you spend. But you're talking to people. You're there. You're mixing with the big boys. There's some big brands there that get behind these things. So. I wouldn't go as far as saying it was a fail. I don't think we made our money back, but like
you don't know what conversations then maybe happened off the back of it as well that you don't even know about that
exactly.
maybe helped.
Just people are probably saying now, I remember 4 or 5 years ago I was at this expo and I seen them. It was like the first time. Like that stuff might be happening, and it's just one of those like learning curves that I wouldn't have done it differently.
Aye. So with the kind of inception of that, obviously it was in conjunction with you playing at like the highest level, sort of playing for Scotland, playing for Warriors and stuff like that. Like, I think and even just so I was saying this to you the other week, like I've just came back into rugby after taking like a bit of a break off. Pretty much the same level, obviously, and playing against Oban and shit like that.
You want what we've done. We've both played at Murrayfield.
Well, that's it. I was actually going to say that half the men in this room have played rugby at Murrayfield, and half of them haven't. But
I've been.
Yeah. Aye, fucking good night. Good day.
It was a great day.
It was a good day out. But like, obviously, you kind of came about creating that because of like the impacts it had on your body, like how fucking physical the game actually is. And even for me, just coming back into it, being like, oh fuck, like I play on a wing, so I'm not in about doing the shit that you guys are doing.
I'm humped for days.
Yeah,
man.
I can tell you played on 4G. I can tell you played on 4G just with the sprains and stuff like that. But like, I remember actually, because even before, like I knew who you were as kind of like as who you are now. Just it was like I'm a Ashe rugby player sort of thing, and then like seeing. I think I remember reading an article back then. It was something about you had like a mad neck injury.
Yeah.
And then that was in the lead up to like, was it New Zealand or South Africa or something like that? Like, when you were like 21, 22.
Yeah.
Talk about that a wee bit.
I've been struggling with my neck, man. Like, and like, when you actually like look into like, my dad had like a bad neck. Like, he had like a bulging disc that he'd struggled with in his neck when it happened when he was about 40. My brother actually, like 2 months ago, he plays football and he went up to the head of the ball and he's fucked his neck as well. Like he's like he had to like stay off work for like 2 weeks, be on like anti-inflammatories, painkillers. But anyway, so I obviously playing rugby maybe just accelerated the fact that there was some sort of underlying issue there. Right. And I'd wake up in the morning and like probably since I was about 19, like I would feel like I was sleeping. I'd go to sleep fine. I'd wake up and I'd just have this like excruciating neck pain. I never understood what it was. But it was like, even just like little movements, like during the night, like changing my head position, or if my pillow was in a certain position, it would irritate my neck. So that started to happen. And, you know, I'd get physio for it. And, you know, you just keep playing through it and, you know, hoping that it was going to get better. It would kind of go like that. It'd get better. It would get worse. But then I was in the Scotland camp at the time and it was autumn tests. I think it was maybe like 2015. But we had a game against New Zealand with... And I stayed in the hotel the night before, but like the night before the hotel, the night before the game, you move into a different hotel, different bed, different pillow. So I'd woke up the next morning and I was like, right, this is a fucking next level pain. Like I'd never felt anything like it. It was like that. I don't know if you ever had like that nerve neuro pain where it's like shooting down your arm and it's just like radiate. It's taken over your whole sort of like being. It's fucked. So I went down, had breakfast, and I was just like struggling. I couldn't even eat, and I got some painkillers from the doc. Took them, Zyclocodamol, and took the edge off it. Like, I mean, it got me to a point where it was manageable. And I was like, I'm playing New Zealand tonight. I'm starting. It's like my 4th game I played for Scotland, playing at Murrayfield. I'm playing this game. Like, I don't give a fuck what happens, man. If I have to take like 10 Cocodamols before this game, I'm playing. So I played the game. It was fine. As the day went on, it eased off, but played the game. It was class. Like actually, we nearly beat New Zealand. It was 3 or 4 points.
I wasn't at the game, but I was in. In fact, here's another funny story.
I was at that game.
I was actually in Edinburgh for a night out on the day of that game, and then I was sitting in a booth with me and all my pals, and Tim Visser was in the booth next to us, and then everybody pulled up after the game and all that, and I remember going on about it, but. I talk about that a wee bit more, like the fact that obviously this was easily, probably at that point, the biggest game of your career.
Aye.
Do you know what I mean? Like against New Zealand. And I kind of want to ask you, like, what's that actually like? But do you think that even if your neck didn't get any better, you still would have walked onto that pitch?
Yeah. 100%. I'd have done anything, man. Like, you jump in front of a bus to like that was the like desire within me to like represent my country and like to push on doing that. So I would have done anything to get out there. It was an experience like facing up against a hacker. Like it was a 5 o'clock kickoff and it was in November, so it was dark at that point, and they turned the lights off in the stadium. You remember it, and everybody had their lights on their phone.
I was at that game.
Yeah.
You remember it? Yeah, describing it. It's probably the only one that's been like that against New Zealand.
It was fucking class, man. Like,
what was that like actually like? Like, see when you were sitting there, obviously you're a boy, you're watching the game, you grow up playing the game, and then you're actually in it. Like
right
you're the guy, you're the geezer sitting there facing that. Like, what's that actually like?
It's a weird one to try and explain because you're just so like fired up. Like it's not like you're viewing it from a normal point of view. You're viewing it from like, again, it's like the desire is just through the roof to like go and get the job done. The focus is just there. It's like crystal. It's just like laser focused. So it almost like goes by and you don't really like, you're not able to take in what was going on because you were in such a like a certain headspace. So it was cool. Like, I mean, you know, you're looking at your opposite man and, you know, you're looking at who's looking at you and you're like, fucking hell, this is brilliant. This is class. Like, this is like, we're getting into it now. But it was cool. Like, there's no doubt about it. You know, it's an amazing thing to face, and it just primes you up ready to get stuck in as soon as that whistle goes at kickoff. It's like, there's no better primer. So that was a cool experience. But like, my favourite experience probably at Murrayfield was like when I played my first game there against Argentina. So my first cap was actually in South Africa against the Springboks, and then maybe like 4 or 5 months after that, it was against Argentina at Murrayfield. But that was the best experience for me, was like singing the anthem in front of like, you know, your home fans, sold out Murrayfield families there. That was unbelievable. Remember that. That will stay with me for a long time, I'm sure.
Yeah. Amazing. Did you didn't sing the national anthem at the start of?
No, we did not.
They didn't throw up a haka on that?
No, there was no haka when I played there.
What was the thing that you?
Do you know what's actually really funny is to see him fucking chatting about like what it was like to face the haka and stuff. Like, I had what he had on a fucking minuscule level. Do you know what I mean? Like,
you didn't he? But
that fear, obviously no haka, but like playing there,
yeah,
I was fucking nearly greeting and stuff.
You'll be surprised. Like you say, like, on a minuscule level, it's probably the same level.
This is what I was going to say.
Like those emotions that you feel don't get like amplified that much more. It's just the emotion, and that's it. You know, you love it, and you've been wanting to do that for a long time.
I know, it was fucking sick.
That's what because I think we maybe spoke about that a wee bit before, and I was like, how high can that feeling actually get? Like, if the stadium was still full of people, granted it was one stand, but that one stand was packed, right? Biggest crowd you probably have played in front of. Do you know what I mean?
Most definitely.
So then it's like, how much higher can it get? It has to kind of be the same a wee bit, but then you kind of think to yourself, but why? Because that is so much more amplified. Like, there should be more of a thing. Do you know what I mean? But it's probably not. Like, you probably experienced the exact same emotions that he was experiencing, which is why I came back. I'm like, I want that.
We're getting there this season.
I mean, like, the way I would talk to that is that, like, see, when I played at Murrayfield for my first time when I was 17 years old for Stirling County, playing in the cup, whatever it was, the Scottish Cup. Yeah, like that same feeling was there for me when I played for Scotland. It's the same thing. It's not that indifferent. It's like, it's similar. You know, I think like the spectrum of human emotions is obviously like big, and it could, you know, be whatever it is, but that feeling that you have is the same feeling that like motivates you to like keep going back and keep getting more. And I think like when the thought of standing there and having that experience like maybe stops evoking the same emotion in you, that's when you know you're probably happy to step away and move away, and maybe that doesn't inspire you anymore. You know?
Did you feel that at all? That emotion, like, or that emotion tail off towards the end of your career?
A little bit. Like, in some ways, I would say probably, but like, when you're in the environment of being in a rugby team and you get behind like the mission and what you're trying to accomplish, like you, even if it comes to just like your average game in a week, right? You know, you might be playing against. I don't want to make any team sound like shit, so I'm not going to say anybody in particular.
If you're playing against like East Kilbride, for example,
against East Kilbride, right? And you know what? Like, you've got no past history with East Kilbride or whatever. Let's just say you couldn't give a fuck about this game. You know, you're in a team and everybody's building towards going out and getting that win, so you end up getting behind it. You end up like really buying into it. So you can find ways to tap into that feeling even after a long time of maybe. You know, maybe it was like 8 years since I played for Scotland and I'm getting towards the end of my career, and that's not something that inspires me anymore, but you find a way to go out and get behind the group of people that you're working with to get the job done, and it becomes slightly different. You know, for me it was more about at that point fulfilling my own dreams and desires of being out there and being that person who could represent their country and, you know, dive head first into people's knees like a fucking Spartan warrior. That was what it was about for me. But as I moved on,
which I think you did very, very, very well.
Well, that was what it was all about then. That's what inspired me. But as I got a little bit older in my career, it was more just like getting behind something, whether it being like, it's the same in business, it's the same, you know, in sport. It's just putting everything you can into it to go out and get the win and make sure that everybody around you, you're doing them proud and you're being a part of getting that done.
How did you feel? So obviously, like, you were involved in like a kind of professional environment, rugby wise, for fucking since you were like, 18 or something? 18 till you were 29. How did you feel like not having that, like because a lot because I've like at uni and stuff, they said that a lot of people can really struggle from the transition from going from professional sports into other stuff. Like how was your head? Like
honestly, like fine.
Yeah.
I mean, I went from playing professionally at 29 to then coming back to Scotland for 3 or 4 months. I was coaching at Stirling County, and then I went out to Chicago to coach there. So I've never really left the environment. Even this has been the first 4 or 5 months when I get back. I got back in June, so it's been 4 or 5 months, and I'm going to get back into coaching. I just haven't yet. I've been sort of focusing on other things, but I don't know. I feel quite happy. Like, I mean,
class,
I wouldn't say content's the right word, like, but I'd say
Fulfilled.
Quite fulfilled about what I'd done, and that's good. But it's not, for me, it's not been a hard transition. I spoke about it a little bit, like online, but for me, I don't know. Like, we spoke about it a little bit a while ago.
Yeah.
It's like that identity of being a rugby player. I think, like, maybe for people that haven't explored other things outside of that, you'll have done that. You know, you weren't playing professionally, but you probably love what you do, but you've got all this other stuff going on in your life. So for me, I think what happened was that, like, I was always open to, like, exploring these new ideas, and it made me question who I was. You know, I think when I was maybe 18, 19, 20, 21, I was like this rugby player, and like it was like I was deeply attached to that idea and concept.
What was your identity?
I am the rugby player.
That was who I was. I didn't have any other like sort of like perception outside of that as to who I was. And then things started to change. You started to have little insights into maybe hardships that come. Like, I remember one thing happened, and it, like, actually it was tough to go through, but when Glasgow Warriors won the final in 2014, 15, I think it was. I can't remember, it all merges into one, but like we won the Pro 14 final over in Ulster.
When you were in Ireland?
Over there, you still remember that.
Yeah.
But I had played like every game up until played the semi-final, just got cut for the final, and that was me. I never played, and I wasn't part of the winning the cup, and like that, I was 21 at that point, and I was like, right, well, like if that can be taken away from me, like, and I'm basing like all my almost like my worth and value as a person is this the rugby player, but then like something can just go like that from right under your feet. Well, you start to question things a little bit, and that process happened probably over the next 2 or 3 years. And I think when I got to, and that's when I started like looking into other things like pure sport, business, you know, and opening up and expanding my mind a bit after that sort of thing happening.
So it's almost a blessing.
100%, 100%. Like, after that sort of thing happened, or not that happened, but a few things like that, I just probably got quite introspective, you know, started to look more at like who I thought I was, like what am I, like what actually am I, and that was the most valuable thing I think I got out of my rugby career, was like, one, the people I met, and like all the things that you learn. It wasn't like the things you won or the places you played. It was like the cool people that you got to surround yourself with, who also had been on that journey, who could like begin to learn things about themselves, come to certain conclusions, outgrow certain things that they thought, like that's really where the value is. So that was cool. That's cool to be able to do that. And it's a never-ending process. You never get to the end of it. You're always going to be uncovering, you know, layers of the onion.
Constant
like
iteration, constant change.
Did you have that thought right away when that happened, when you were 21, or did that take time to develop? Because I think that if I just think from my perspective, my point of view, like if that happened to me, I think I'd be like heartbroken almost. You know, like the fuck, like like totally, like, and almost, I think when you're 21, you're supposed to be a man, you're supposed to have things fucking figured out, but realistically, I think all 4 of us or even 5 of us could probably say at the age of 21 we didn't have a fucking clue. No. So like, how long did that even take for you to figure out?
Long time. At first it was just like heartbreak. It was like you're just gutted, man. Like, you don't know how to like explain what you're feeling, but you just feel like shit, and we just went on the bevy, man.
That's how most people tend to deal with it.
I got dropped on the Thursday, told I was he played. Gregor Townsend pulled me aside. He's like, look, you're not going to be playing. And I was like, oh, fucking gutted. So the next day, like all the boys that weren't playing, you just get together and you kind of like just pick each other's spirits. You know what it's like.
Yeah.
So we flew over for the game and we just got on it like on a flight at like 8 a.m, just smashing guys in the airport right through. Then we flew back at night, so it was like an 8 a.m. in the morning till like 1, 2 in the morning when we got back at night. That's how we did. That's how we dealt. That's the initial response. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like,
that's exactly,
it's sometimes appropriate.
That's the culture as well, especially in rugby, I suppose. But,
when I lose, we're on the booze.
But to go back to the question, like it never, that realization never set in straight away. It was a long sort of process of unfolding and then starting to like refine the question, like just really try and understand like things. It took months, and honestly, only over the last like year or two would I be able to like look back at that and say, oh, I think that's what was happening. At the time, it was a long process of like really sort of doing a bit of digging into what I saw myself to be and the identity that I held myself as that point. And then that sort of just triggered a little bit of exploration over the next sort of 10 years of my career.
Yeah. I think, so see, after that kind of, because that's obviously the tail end of the season, did you have kind of aspirations to be like, right, well, fuck, I'm going to make sure I don't get dropped again? Do you think that picked your performance up, or did it kind of tail off a wee bit?
Good question. I don't know. It's hard to say how that would affect me, but like definitely at times I thought it served me worse because there was a fear in the back of my mind that was almost lingering there, like this is going to happen again.
Aye.
But then at the same time, I probably didn't. I played my best rugby like a couple of years after that. So in some ways, yes, in some ways, no. It's hard to pinpoint. I probably played my best rugby in 2017 when Dave Rennie came into Glasgow Warriors. He came in and like, you know, had a bit of sort of confidence and faith in me. Interestingly, that was when Gregor had left Glasgow, who was obviously had went through some of that stuff with, and you don't know, like maybe there's like a bit of baggage that you sort of carry on there or whatever. But Gregor's great. He's a great coach. I wouldn't say anything bad about him at all. But when Dave came in, I did feel like there was a sort of a new lease for life, and I'd almost moved through a bit of that and had a good season. We got back into the Scotland squad to play in the November test. I was going to start against Tonga, I think it was, and like 3 days or 5 days before that, ended up like doing my ankle in and was out for 3 months. And that was me getting back in after probably a year out. So that never happened. And that was probably the last opportunity I would have had to play for Scotland. So like, it's funny how things work out.
I think even going backwards in your kind of Scotland career, like kind of right at the start, I think you were right on the cusp of that World Cup selection in 2015. It was 17 or 15?
2015,
you were kind of like on that cusp of that sort of, and then that's the kind of time where you had a lot of these younger guys come in, like the Finn Russells, Johnny, like you had a lot of you guys kind of coming into the team at that sort of stage. Like what did you feel the same sort of feelings from the Glasgow thing as the Scotland thing in 2015?
100%.
Yeah. Because you played was it the South Africa? Was that the warm up game for the World Cup?
No. Who did I play against? Played against Italy. So like,
is that what it was?
Yeah, it was funny how like that worked out, because like moving into the World Cup, you're in camp for 8 weeks and then you start playing games. But like, depending on like the squads that get selected for the games and who's playing in those games, like obviously like can make you look good or it can make you look shit. You've got no control of that. And that happened, and like that was definitely like a topic of the conversation within the squad at that time. But I think coming off the back of the season that I'd had at Glasgow, and obviously having played for Scotland in the summer and that going quite well, like everybody was looking at me as like he's going to get picked, you know, he's in that squad. Everyone was thinking that. And then I actually went to Turkey with my missus when the season finished, and I just need to get some time off, man. Like, you know, I've been, you know, stressing out at rugby. I just need to switch off. So we went to Turkey for like 2 weeks, and it was like an all-inclusive hotel. Man, I put on about fucking 7 kegs. So like 7 kegs.
You know, like 110 at that point.
Just like eating like fuck on the fucking beers, man. Like it was good fun. But that was like the first time like I'd been away. Like honestly, you go on lads' holidays for 5 days and you come back, like you're not really eating, so it doesn't you don't put on weight. But we went away. So anyway, I came back into the World Cup camp, and I think we did like a fitness test, and I got like a bit of a shit score. I think like Vern Cotter was like, "What's going on here?" Like, and then obviously they found out that I put on a bit of weight and stuff like that. So anyway, I was like, at that point, I was like, right, I need to do everything I can to get on this plane. So I literally went like full paleo, like for like, let's just say like 10 or 12 weeks.
Aye, fucking hell.
And I went from 114 kilos to 105.
Jesus.
Like, I was just like, I lost a lot of weight, and I was probably in the best shape of my rugby career. I was in the best shape the way I looked. You know, I had low body fat, you know, a good bit of muscle, strong in the gym, fit as fuck on the field running. But I just lost a bit of like bang. Like I just lost that like power when I carried the ball into contact. I wasn't quite making as many meters as I was before. So I played a game against Italy and it went all right. I played all right, played quite well. And then we had an internal game that I played in, and that went actually really well, played well. You know, a couple of guys coming up after and say, "Oh, you actually played really well," and you know that probably confirms things in your mind that you did all right. You definitely question yourself. You don't know really how you did. You know what it's like. But anyway, like maybe the next week, Bern pulled me in the changing room. It was like this little changing room. It was like a little box in Murrayfield. Like it's actually, I think it's like a technical room in the tunnel. And it was me, him, and like 4 or 5 of the other coaches. And he was like, "Right, you know, we just think that you've got to be doing better if you want to get on the plane at the World Cup." And he was just giving me a wee bit of a rocket, you know, like he was kind of sending me a bit of a message. And I was like unsure as to what was going on. And in hindsight, I know what he was doing. He was priming me for telling me that I wasn't going. You know, that was what he was doing. So anyway, a week later, you know, you get a call off him, and you know, you're not going, and you're just like, "Oh fuck, man, that's mental. Like, can't believe it." So you go through the whole thing again, like gutted. But fuck, what can you do? It's fucking sport, isn't it? Like, I mean, you live and learn, and like, I knew that like I went away and had a good time on my holiday. I fucking lived my life and it was good fun. And I came back, and then I committed like nothing I'd ever committed before. But I actually fucked myself because I was naive. I thought, like, you know what, if I get in the best shape, if I get my body fat low, and if I can get to a place where I'm as fit as I can be, then I'll have a good chance going. But I went too far. You know, I lost too much weight, and like at that point, you're 21, you don't know what the right balance is for you. Like, how heavy do you need to be? How strong? Like, so you're figuring that out, and obviously as your career goes on, after going through something like that, you know that you can't get back down to that weight because you lose that. But that's what happened, and it was shite.
I think I remember when Vern Cotter came in, and then there was like rumblings that he was a bit of a hard bastard. Like, they don't have people doing mad shit in like the 2015 World Cup training camps. They don't have them doing like fucking, it was like killing rabbits or something like that. I heard something like, what was that? Do you know anything about that?
Stuff like that going on. I think I can speak about it. I don't know.
Fuck it. We'll cut it out. See if you can. We'll cut it out.
No, there was stuff happening. Like, we went like to France, and we were staying in this like marine camp up in this fucking mountain. Like, there was nothing around it, and we were just like, "What's going on here?"
War paint on in the morning.
Honestly, it was like that. And we woke up. We were getting flogged. Actually, so it was 2 days before this happened. We were getting flogged up at altitude on this field, like. And I'd hurt my ankle, so I couldn't actually train. So I wasn't, they weren't happy with me for that either. But anyway, it was like, right, we're going to go up this hill. So the Marines took us up this hill, and they're walking for like, honestly, it must have been about 4 hours up this fucking mountain. And it was like roasting, carrying these bags. We got up to the top, and we just thought we were coming back down. And he's like, right, we're staying up here for the night. So like, okay. And we went round, walked down this wee bit. It was under a bit of shelter. There was trees there, and there was 4 rabbits in cages. There was 4 rabbits, and like, right, we've got these rabbits here. Like, we're staying for the night. Obviously, we've not got any food organised. So, like, you know, if you want to eat, then, you know, a person from each of the teams, the clans that we were in at that point, has to kill the rabbit. Then the Marine was like, right, we'll show you how to do it properly. So they showed us how to do it, and somebody would volunteer and go and do it. I never. So one person would go up and do that, and then we fired them onto the barbecue. We started cooking them, and then a van pulls up around the corner, and the doors swing open at the back, and there was a full spread barbecue wine, beers. Like, so obviously we never ate the rabbit, but we got stuck into some good food and we cooked a proper barbecue. And
That's fucking wild.
we actually got on it. We sank a few bottles of wine in that. It was good fun. And then obviously when you're that high up and it gets to like midnight, the temperature fucking plummets and it's like -3 in the middle of the night. Didn't have a fucking cover or anything like that. Just sleeping under the stars. So that was an experience, but yeah,
that's interesting coaching, isn't it? Like,
Do you think?
Did that make a difference?
well, what he was wanting to do, he was
shape
wanting
or
to
form?
who steps up.
Who steps up?
Who's stepping up? Who's going to be willing to feed the group?
Aye.
And there was people there that were vegans and that, like running off around the corner because they didn't want to see it and that. Like, that was
Really, it was the
happening.
professional rugby players that were vegans.
No, it was more like staff.
Oh, the
members.
staff or whatever. Right. I was going to say, that's mad. I would like to think, talking about it, I would like to think that I would be the guy that would step up to do it. But then I think when push goes to shove, I'd maybe be like,
I'm not killing a bunny. Fuck that.
It was
I know
bunnies
you
as well. It wasn't the kind of proper bunnies. Like,
aye.
you would do it. I'm sure all of us would do it if we had to eat.
You had to
But we
eat,
weren't at
yeah.
that point.
100%.
Yeah.
See if it was life or death.
You're doing it.
I'm killing that rabbit.
Yeah, you're doing
You
it.
would do it.
Yeah, but at work, like up a
That's
mountain.
mad. Was there any other kind of mad like out of box coaching experiences you ever had to go through like that, or was that up there with like the kind of top one?
It's hard to think now, but like that's probably one that was like quite rogue, and there was obviously a bit of backfire in the media. Hopefully, we're beyond that now, and we can talk about it.
Hopefully.
But like, it's interesting. Like, coaches work in different ways, and like, you learn stuff. I was really fortunate through my career to have had some of the best coaches in the world. Like, when I think about some of the guys I've worked with, like Gregor Townsend, Dave Rennie, Vern was interesting. He was a good coach though. Scott Robertson, the Crusaders coach, but spent a bit of time with him. Matt Taylor, like, honestly spoilt for choice when it came to like high quality coaches. So you end up learning all this stuff from them and how they go about their business. And for me, that was really helpful when I stepped into actually coaching professionally. It was a bit of a transition because a lot of the boys in the team, I knew them. And I'd played with them. They were mates of mine, but I had to be a coach and a mate. Some of them were my best mates. That was also quite challenging. But I was really, I was spoiled. I had some really good coaches that I worked with.
Who would you say had the biggest impact on you? Maybe as a player or maybe as a man, if that makes, do you know what I mean?
As a coach, like a coach on me or a
coach
player?
on you?
Coach on me. Probably Scott Robertson.
Yeah.
I mean, I only spent 3 months with him in New Zealand because I went out on a scholarship out there, and he was still like, I mean, he was coaching the academy at that point. Now he's the All Blacks coach, is he? I think he's the All Blacks coach. I think he might be. So
is
he?
Yeah. Break dances and shit.
He does all that shit.
That's
It was
mad.
just his energy, man. Like how he went about life. Like he would just turn up and he'd just be like full of energy, man. Like he'd be out surfing in the morning, he'd rock up, and he was just like this like interesting character. And you could tell that he really like just cared about people. Like he wanted the best for people, and he was willing to show up to his work every day, have a good time, and that energy was infectious. Like on everybody. Like, and I learned so much about about what I wanted to be. Like it gave me like an ideal in my mind. Like that's what I want to be like. I want to be him. And that, honestly, to this day, like it lives with me. Like knowing that like I spent time with that guy and where he's gone in his career and how he sort of impacted me, like that's cool. Like that's inspiring. Like that's what everybody wants. Like
yeah.
I think a mad thing about that is that that's obviously like who he is like as a person, but he might not even realise that he's had that impact on you and probably others as well. But I think that people who are like that end up in the places that they're in just now because of that. Do you know what I mean? Because of that. But then speaking on that, you're going to end up having a bit of that yourself, being a dad.
Yeah.
Of course. Fatherhood, we're talking a wee bit about that last time. 3 dads in here, Danny.
My pull-out game strong.
baby.
0 for 3.
0 for 3. I like that comment yesterday. I like that. How did we were chatting a wee bit about that the other week and stuff like that? Like you were just ready to take on that role a wee bit.
Yeah, I think so. I think you probably get to like your late 20s, maybe early 30s for some people, but like you feel that like that's probably something that you just kind of are ready for in life, like someone else to look after, someone else to provide for. my wife, she's ready for that. You know, she always said for a long time she wanted to sort of wait till she was older to have kids, and then literally within about 6 months, it was like from I don't want kids to we're having kids. You know,
and we're getting one. It's
so it's exciting. It's going to be good. Looking forward to it. All's going well so far, and we've got about 2 months now until the baby comes. So it's going to change. I'll need to get my last few nights in with the boys before things go south.
Fucking definitely. Have you gone? Is the room prep to you that far in advance? Nah,
the nursery's not done. We've just finished in the house, so like we'll get the nursery done in the next few weeks.
Yeah. Jesus,
I lost my office to the nursery.
I lost my PlayStation room to I was like during lockdown. In fact, the only reason why that room got done so quickly is because she ended up falling pregnant beforehand. There was clothes everywhere. There was a TV on the floor and a chair, and I just used to sit and just fucking play Call of Duty during fucking lockdown. Man, that was the life. That was the absolute life. But I don't know how your reaction was, but Amanda, we spoke about this a couple of times on the podcast. She made a really cute video about like she filmed her telling you
the whole fucking
thing was great. When Katie told me I didn't speak to her for 4 days, I was just in like pure denial mode.
Really?
She thought I was going to leave her and all that sort of shit. I was just like, I just went into shutdown.
You just planned?
There's a bit of story behind that, but what was your reaction when you get told?
I mean, it helped me a bit because we were trying. Like, it happened quite quick after a couple of months. But I was away. We were in Chicago at the time, but we had an away game, and I flew back on the Sunday, and Alisa had realised that she was pregnant on like the Friday, but she hadn't told me.
What?
So she wanted to wait until I was
you in
there.
person?
She picked me up at the airport and was like, "I've got some news for you." And I was like, "Oh, what is it?" She was like, "Oh, I'm pregnant." I was like, "Oh, fucking brilliant. Like, oh, that's great. Good news." It was just a nice feeling, you know. Nice. And then about 10 seconds after that, the fear. Poof. Oh, fuck. I've got a kid coming. Like, this is happening. You know, it's coming. So it was a mixture of like excitement, but like fear, because ultimately it's a life and you've got to look after it. You've got to provide for it and it's yours.
Yeah.
So that was quite scary. And I think like you do probably struggle with that for a bit. You know, like you battle those kind of inner dialogues that are going through your mind. And then after a bit of time, you start to get used to it. Like anything, it's like the more you resist something and push it away, the bigger it becomes. But if you can create that little space, that home for it within your head and become okay with it, it just fizzles out, doesn't it? It becomes something that you're completely fine with. So as times went on, I go as far as saying I don't have really any worries now about having a kid. It's more exciting than it is scary. It's going to be a challenge. It's going to be hard. It's going to put strain on our relationship that we've probably never had that level of before. So it'll be fun.
I think speaking on now, Hati's she'll be 2 in January, end of January. The feelings and the emotions and that when they're not here are worse than when they're actually here. Because when they're actually here, you're in it and you're like, it's actually not that bad. Like you build things up in your head to be worse than what they actually are, but then when you're going through it, it's like, you know, thinking back even like 5 years, like, oh fuck, I'd never know what to do being a dad. And even when I get her and then they're there and then the nurse fucks off and you're like, I don't know, what do I do now? You know, Mrs. Pure zonked it. You're like, what's happening here? Like I've got this pure alive thing. And then you just they know what to do more so than we know what to do. It's mad. It's natural. They just do stuff. Yeah, it's total human nature.
Is that what you're talking, baby or Katie?
Oh, baby.
Baby, yeah.
Baby Katie.
Have you found your worries have changed since having Hati? So general worries of like day to day are like, do you know what I mean? Because now Hati's here, so now it's like worries that you'd maybe think about yourself, worry about yourself. You know, you're like, well,
doesn't really matter.
Doesn't really matter.
I think for the most part, I've always been a very laid back guy anyway. Like I've not been too wound up about stuff like that, like low level stuff, like maybe I was when I was a lot younger, but as I got older, I think that it's more just been an addition to my life rather than like a good addition to my life rather than just like a pure, I've now got to worry about this. Like it's not like I've got this. I don't know, it's a kind of weird thing to try and explain.
I think it's interesting. I definitely think there's something in what you're saying. It's like when this thing happens and it comes along, it's like a new depth of meaning in your life. So like all those little like, you know, niggly little thoughts that most
Would
people
normally
probably have.
did it even come up anymore?
No,
anxieties
you don't
because,
even care about them.
you're just, I don't know, it probably just changes the whole way you view life and your
Something.
perspective. So
Yeah.
it would be interesting to see if that happens.
Aye.
It's,
Yeah.
I feel like for me, I've got more clarity of like what I want from my life now.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I know it's all about currently unnamed baby.
Yeah.
Petulia. I'm saying
Petulia, a wee baby
Petulia.
Petulia.
Aye.
Like, and it's just I feel calm.
Aye.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel sound.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool. It's mad, isn't it?
Just wait until they start shitting up their back, man.
Yeah, fucking.
Mate, that's it. The babies defy gravity. No, like if you shit your pants, I don't know how often you've done that before, but it goes that way.
Yeah, you seem to know a lot about that.
When few poop stories. When babies shit themselves, it goes that way. And
Is
it
it
goes,
actually?
aye, yeah. So be prepared. Like, just always have extra vests and clothes and shit on deck because the poo goes up the way. And like, I had to buy the car seat and shit like that. Like, it gets fucked.
Is your missus like mega like prepared?
Nah, I wouldn't say so. Like, not really. But she's pretty much saying like we need to get 4 or 5 things. I mean, were we wrong there? I don't know. Like, more than that. Like,
I don't know. I didn't have any involvement of what we were getting, what we weren't getting. I just seen things come out my bank account. It's like ding, ding, ding.
that seems to be the same.
Yeah,
So
just loads of Amazon deliveries every
Aye.
single fucking day. I know the guy in first name terms now. Right, Barry, Sam, bro, another one.
that's happening.
Nipple
for us.
guards. Fucking
So obviously looking forward into the future, I kind of wanted to spend a wee bit more time on it, but we're kind of running out. Was obviously the kind of next steps. Obviously you're going to becoming a dad, but you've also dabbled your foot in kind of new projects and stuff like that. So talk a wee bit about that. I guess.
So, I mean, after I came back from Chicago, I wanted a bit of time out of coaching. Like, I love coaching. It was good. I just don't know if it was serving me that well. Like, I've got this thing about me where like I need to be like making stuff, like creating things. Like I've got this like little fucking itch that I just need to keep like doing stuff. And in my professional rugby career, I think it like at times harmed me. Like obviously with the pure sport thing and Scottish rugby having a bit of an issue about that. Chicago, I was making music. I was DJing. I was making music, and I know that there was people within the organisation that would see me posting about it, and they would have like an issue. I also know that there's fans that are looking and they're like, well, that's this boy. They've lost 3 games in a row, and this boy's posting about DJing a video, and he should be coaching. I'm like, well, hold on a second here. Like the commitment to my job as a coach was like, I could never second guess that. It was like, and anybody that I was working with, I think they'd say the same. But of course, when you do stuff like that, when you have maybe different facets to your personality that if you put out there, if it's something that you really love and want to do, there's more chance of you getting an opportunity for that thing, whether it be in music, whether it be in starting a company, and you have to do it. You have to use social media. So I just felt for coaching for me at the moment is probably not the best route to go down in terms of like professional and starting a career there, because I've got other stuff that I want to do and I want to be able to do it. So I came back, and one of the investors in Pure Sport, he's involved in another company called Zapity. It's a file sharing platform. It's not the most exciting fucking thing you've ever heard in your life. It's it's a tech company. So I actually invested into the company and then helped them out with some just fundraising. They're trying to raise like $1 million at the moment. So I helped them out, introduce them to some people who wanted to get involved. And then off the back of that, they were like, we've got a role for you that we think would be suited for you. You could make a difference for us. So I do like 3 days a week for them at the moment. And that's nice because it gives me a little bit of time to work on a few little projects that I've got going on in the back. But it's good. I like it. They're all really good people. Like, I'm the youngest who's working in the company by quite a long way. Some of the people are based down in London. That's more like the software tech people. And then up here in Glasgow is the more of the commercial team. So it's been nice. I've really liked it. And I think what sort of happened over the last like 3 or 4 months is that it's probably made it a bit more clear to me. I didn't really see this at the time, but what was going on with the coaching and the rugby stuff, I feel a bit better about things now. Like, there's a bit more of I don't know if it's just a structure in my life or whatever, but I wake up and I'm very hungry to get out there and sort of get going with things and get this company moving forward. I'm in a good routine with training and stuff like that too. So it's good to be settled again in Glasgow and actually have our house. We've been moving around like fuck for the last 3 or 4 years. So I don't know, maybe all those things combined, I'm at a point where I'm kind of looking forward to working with this company for the next 3 or 4 years, hopefully build it up. And the aim is to sell it. Hopefully we can sell it in 4 or 5 years probably, and make some money. That's the aim.
Let's go, man. Amazing.
But I don't know. I'll probably, as I say, I'll get back into coaching at some point.
Always welcome East Kilbride, mate.
Could come down, couldn't I? You got coaches. You got.
We do have coaches, but there's room for one more.
There's
always room for one more.
Yeah.
We'll chat after the podcast. And the captain as well. So
we've got he's actually got the paperwork in the car as well. Now. He's ready to go.
Signature, mate.
Don't need it, mate. Just sign it. But no, we'll wrap up there. We could go for ages, but I've had a ton of fun doing this. But thank you very much
for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you, mate.
Round of applause, everyone. Round of applause.
Excellent. Spot on, man.
Cash out there.